Hi there, my name is Dave Belcher. I'm the community manager at Classical Guitar Corner. And today I would like to talk to you about how to change strings on a classical guitar. So before we get started, some things that you will need: a fresh pack of new strings, obviously, a string winder. These are very helpful, and if you can find one for cheap, I would highly recommend picking one up. This particular one by Planet Waves has the winder, but it also has a little cutter, so you can cut strings after you're done winding. It's also useful to have like a piece of cardboard or a piece of mail like I have here. Unopened mail is actually a really helpful thing to have for the back of your bridge. And I'll show you how to use this in just a little bit. And of course, fresh cup of coffee, because coffee makes everything better. So let's get started. Now, one other thing I would recommend is a piece of shelf liner. These are made of rubber, and they'll keep your guitar from moving around on the table while you're working. So I just place that right in the middle of the table, and then your guitar right on that, and we can get to work. Okay, so to get started, we want to remove our old strings. So you take your string winder, and I would start on the treble side. Now you can remove all of your strings at once if you'd like, but the way I do it, I remove my treble side first and put the new treble strings on, and then remove the bass strings. And the reason I do that is the treble strings for me take the longest to stretch. And so I can have these on here and tune them up while I'm putting the other strings on, and they'll be on there a little bit longer. It just helps them stretch. So let's get rid of the treble strings. Now at this point, you can use your string winder to clip the old strings from here. Want to make sure that all the tension is relieved, so they're nice and loose before you clip them. Then you can remove them from both ends, starting here. And at the bridge as well. Having long fingernails will help here, and I would recommend when you're done changing your strings to buff your nails, because they will get a little torn up working on your strings, especially when you get to the basses. It's just part of the business. All right, now I can put the new strings on. Okay, now remember earlier I said you would need a piece of cardboard or a closed piece of mail. Now is when you're going to need that. So what we're going to do is place it just behind the bridge here, on the back side of the bridge. What this will do is protect your top in case one of the strings slips out of the saddle. Now, if you do this correctly, the string will not slip out of the saddle and you won't even need this. But just in case, I've seen a lot of guitars that have gashes on the back side of the guitar, on the top, on the back side of the bridge, and it's just a helpful thing to have there for extra security. Especially when you're first starting out, I would highly recommend doing this. You can just leave it here, or you can tape it to the top and use a safe tape that's really gentle, like painter's tape, like the blue tape. I wouldn't use duct tape. That will ruin your top. You'll have to get that off and then refinish your guitar. Okay, so that's that. Let's get started with the first string. Now, I always start with the first string on this side, and then when we come back around to do the basses, we'll start with the sixth string. You start with the outside string first. Okay? So if you have a pack of D'Addario strings, they have these little markers that tell you which string you're working with, which is really helpful. So this is the first E string. Remove this little guy. We don't need it any longer. And then you're going to put the string coming from this side into the hole, the first hole. Give yourself a little bit of slack here. Now, the way I do it is I pull around under the string, back through, and I want to loop it 3 times. So 1, 2, 3 times. Okay, then I'm going to take this part right here, this little tail, and I want it to go on the back side of the bridge. back here. You don't want it on the top, on the back side, and then you want to pull it tight and it will catch. So now it's held tight back there, okay? And then we'll switch to the other side, putting the string through the capstan or the string winder. Okay, now you want to get your hole lined up basically along this horizontal path here. Stick your string through the hole. It's helpful if you have 3 or maybe 4 hands here too. Okay, pull it all the way through. Make sure you keep the tension on so it doesn't come undone at the other side at the bridge. We want the string to wrap on this side for the first string and then on this side for the second and third string. So the way that we do that is wrap this way. So we go back out to the outside of the neck, in under the string, and then again we want to do that 3 times. 1, 2, 3. Now pull it tight until it goes all the way flush, and then we want to start stringing that up. Make sure you are pulling it tight the whole time so that all of the string is flush against the string header. Okay, and once it's there, once it wraps around a little bit, it'll catch and it's in place and you can let go of it. And that's when you use your string winder to pull it up to pitch. Okay, you want your string to go through. A little bit of slack underneath. This way. The reason I do it this way is so that the strings are pointing in and I can clip them. It's just a little tidier. So under 1, 2, and 3. And then we'll move around to the other side. Okay, just like before, through the hole, grab the other end, pull it tight. Now this time, instead of going this way, pulling out and coming back in, we want to go from the inside out. And again, I want to do 3 wraps. So under the string 3 times, pull it tight, and start winding it up with your fingers. Make sure it's held tight so that all of the string is flush against that capstan. And again, you're going to see the string wrap on the outside because of the way that I wrapped it. And now the string has touched the capstan and it's held in place. We can let go and use our string winder. Okay, now I've just cleaned up the back side of the bridge here a little bit, and I've clipped the strings at the other end as well, and I removed the bass string so we can get started on this side. So like I said earlier, we work from the outside in. So now we're going to start from the 6th string. So take my string, remove a little wrapping on it. Now, on most strings, you'll see this kind of chord here, this where the windings are bare, and this makes it more flexible. It's supposed to be for this end of the bridge. However, I would not use that because I want a little bit more stability on this side of the string than the other side. So what I do is I just bend the end of the string a little bit to help it go in the hole, and then just kind of push through. There you go. Now, same thing we did earlier. We're going to go around, but this time you only need 1 wrap, just 1. You make sure though that it's on the back side of the bridge here. See? Otherwise it'll come undone just like that. All right, so wrap around once, stick it on the back side of the bridge. hold it in place with your finger, tighten it down. Okay, see how it's on the back side now? And then we switch to the other side. Okay, line up your hole so that it's more or less on the same plane as the fretboard as you did earlier. And you want to take your string, go straight through. Pull it tight. Again, make sure you're holding tension so it doesn't come loose on the other side. We still want that string to be on the back side of the bridge, and if you let it loose, it might slip to the top, and that's not a good thing. So 3 hands, again, a good thing to have. Okay, so we want the string to wrap on this side, and so we want to put this, going like this. So toward the outside and back under. And we want to wrap twice on the bass strings. Really don't need any more than that. Okay, pull tight and tighten up. And it should pull into the nut slot like that for you, but if it doesn't, you might want to just help it out. And as soon as you see the string caught just like that, you can let go and tighten it up. You probably don't need the string winder. The basses are pretty close to where they need to be. Having a tuner here will help. And you're done. Okay, now you can cut the little ends that remain. Get rid of these little tails. Just take your clippers from your string winder, or if you have scissors or something else to cut them with, like fingernail clippers work well. All right, and we're done. So once you've got all your strings fastened at both ends and they're nice and tight, you can clean up the strings by clipping at the headstock, and also down here. If you just pull the strings up a little bit, you can clip them off, as I've done here. If they're hanging off, they can cause your strings to rattle when you play. If you hear a little buzzing when you play and you know it's not from your frets, check your string ends on the saddle side, on the bridge side, because it could be that a tail end of a string is on top of the top, and that will cause your string to buzz. Now you may notice after you get your strings strung up on your guitar, you tune up the guitar and you put it back in your case to sit for a little while, that when you go to pick it up again, your strings aren't in tune. It will take at least a couple of days to stretch out, sometimes as much as 3. The best remedy for this is to keep tuning up your guitar often throughout the day. There are other ways of stretching out the string, such as tugging at the string lightly. This can, however, add wear to the strings, especially down by the saddle in the bass strings. Those strings are a steel core with windings on the outside, and those windings can come loose and they can get kinks in them if you tug too hard on the strings. So while that will stretch the string out much more quickly, and you've probably seen performers do this, they change their strings quite often, and they usually have just put strings on the same day that they're performing. But for you, if you're only changing your strings every couple of weeks or every month or so or longer, then I would recommend simply picking your guitar up often throughout the day, tune it up to pitch, put it back in the case and let it rest, and even play for a little while. The more that you stretch your strings out naturally by tuning and playing, the better. I hope you found this useful. Take care.